But blockchain, I think it has our attention at the moment. And with blockchain, I see one of the things I discovered. I moved all my cryptocurrency from exchanges to a ledger just recently, and I discovered a couple of things that of the big cryptocurrencies, they exist in the ledger in an interface where I can know my entire portfolio. But that's only one aspect in crypto. What I learned was crypto is really about the functionality of programmable money. Like, for example, in an EOS token, you can use that to stake and get RAM and CPU usage of the network.
Yeah.
That isn't exactly obvious when you're just looking at the number of EOS tokens in a wallet, right? You don't necessarily know. So to know that, you have to do a bunch of research.
Yeah.
And then once you do that research, you have to download the EOS wallet in order to enable that functionality. And so what I learned was that, like you were saying, Daniel, this video games or virtual realities in the 80s of video games right now, cryptocurrencies is not even, it's barely in the early 90s of the internet, because it is definitely not easy to use cryptocurrencies at all.
Yeah.
And the whole point of cryptocurrencies is that new programmable functionality that does not exist in regular currency. And to use that functionality, you have to go download the EOS wallet, you have to go download the Link wallet, you have to download all these wallets. You have 10 wallets open. And you to see how much EOS you have to open that wallet, plug in your hardware device, and see how many EOS. You have to do the same thing for all these other wallets. So we're still in the extremely early stages, and I think what gets us excited about Decentraland is that we're in the same exact early stage. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when I was growing up and the internet was first starting to come out and be used, I feel like I missed the boat on participating on the internet and going, making a startup company that, ended up selling for $100 million just because I was too young. But now that we're able to take advantage of, cryptocurrencies and blockchain and right now Decentraland, I feel like this is our internet. This is our chance to make an impact. So I feel like, with the virtual world, like in the 80s, that actually excites me. Because we're the ones creating the new foundations, the new standards, and new stuff. So that's kind of how I see things. I don't know, what your thoughts are on all that, Daniel.
Yeah, of course. About virtual reality, yes, we were in the 80s. About being in the 90s of the internet, I don't know. The thing about blockchain is that it's going to be like the internet. Everyone is going to use it, but not everyone is going to know how it actually works. Like if you ask a random folk around the street if they know how the internet works or what is a cloud, they will just tell you they don't know. They're just using it and they just don't know what really is going on behind the screen. So
that's a good
point.
point.
I think blockchain is going to be the same. People is going to be using it even though they don't really understand it or how it works, because it's actually a it's a bit complex concept that you have to track and pay a bit of attention to learn about it. And if you see like it's a really extremely difficult thing, you are not going to
absolutely
people learning it. It's like the internet. The thing is, I think right now in the blockchain industry, there's only programmers who are making this thing that is very useful, but there are not many designers giving a functionality, a pleasing-looking functionality for the wider audience. If you want to use crypto, you will have to. Okay, maybe Coinbase made this easier for just buying Ethereum or Bitcoins.
Right.
But there is still a lot of friction between other cryptocurrencies, and I imagine, for example, my girlfriend or my mom trying to buy Ethereum,
right,
and try to have a use of it, and they will just like, why should I use Ethereum for anything?
No, absolutely.
I think that's the difference between like us making comparisons with the impact of the internet and how blockchain is going to impact the world, because the internet didn't really actually disrupt anything. If anything, it improved everyone's lives. But blockchain and cryptocurrencies is really going to have a disruptive effect on finance.
Absolutely.
On just
Of course, but the internet was necessary. I mean, we are underestimating the power of the internet.
Oh no! Yeah, it was incredibly powerful. I mean, obviously, it changed everything.
It connected the world essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not like the
interaction between humans
yeah
will change fundamentally with blockchain and cryptocurrency simply because, for example, fiat, we live on the foundation of fiat, which is basically money that is literally printed out of thin air, and there's infinite fiat.
yeah
And so once you change that paradigm into a cryptocurrency where there's no infinite Bitcoin, right? There is no infinite of these coins.
mm-hmm.
You change how we interact with each other and how our financial systems work.
Mm-hmm.
So with the internet, it just changed how we communicate with each other. Instead of making phone calls, we use email, text message, things like that, which is equally as powerful, but I think it's not as foundational and important as how we manage our financial system.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's from what I'm starting to pick up with blockchain. I think it is important, that since we're so early in the kind of the development of blockchain and the development of virtual reality, is that since we're that early, we get to set the ground rules, the groundwork. Kind of like whenever the internet started, it was PCIP. You have to know IP addresses in order to go to a website and all that stuff. Once it becomes easier, there's going to be mainstream adoption, but we are definitely far away from that. I mean, it's not even. I thought we were closer. We're not that close because, like you were saying, Daniel, like using Coinbase is very easy, right? You download the app, you put in your ID. It's pretty good. The problem with Coinbase is that they hold your private keys. Mm-hmm. So if they get hacked, you lose your money. Yeah, there's insurance. But the point of crypto is that we become our own banks,
Mm-hmm.
and if that's the point, then we got to find easy ways for us to become our own banks
Mm-hmm.
and still use the functionality of programmable money without having to understand what a blockchain is and what mining does and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I feel like we're extremely far away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about crypto is the thing, most important thing that I think is going to change is that it's going to change the value of the stuff. Like
Yeah.
the way we see stuff, the value we can give to a cup of glass can change because now maybe it's an NFT glass in the real life. This is still very early. We will see a lot of people just trying to know new things in the next few years, and we are still far away to have like a mainstream use. But
Yeah.
I don't think we're like that far away for seeing companies starting to use blockchain to improve their services.
Yeah,
So
that's
as I meant, people will use these services without
Sure.
knowing there is blockchain behind it.
I think it was in July or was it June where they had the the E3 conference where all the video games companies get together, and I watched a lot of it, and I was surprised that I think blockchain was only mentioned one time, like the word once,
Yeah.
the entire conference,
Yeah.
and I have to assume that these companies are at least dabbling into blockchain and NFTs and all that stuff, but I was surprised that there was only one mention, and it was not a huge deal. So do you think the gaming industry is going to have a blockchain kind of foundation in maybe most of the games, or at least a good percentage of them, Daniel?
Not anytime soon, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of companies are looking into cryptocurrencies because they can add more value to their items, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And that's something that if the thing is with crypto, I see in the future that maybe you just can buy a cryptocurrency of a game, and then you drop this game, and you can interchange the money that you had in this game into your future game.
Yeah.
So you will never be losing time playing between games because you will only have value into the stuff you're earning all the time.
That's right.
And that's something that video game developers are, I'm sure they're aware of. Like the thing is, if you drop like the crypto or blockchain work into the E3, people is going to just look another way, because I think the gamers are still not prepared or to see that there can be value on top of this.
Yeah, that's true. I would imagine the average gamer doesn't really understand NFT tokens and the value that that could bring to kind of their gaming experience.
But like you said, if you could just keep all that lingo and all that technical stuff in the background, and you just pitch to your community or your player base that, hey,
you can actually trade this.
You can explain it simply and get people interested just by saying, you know, what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
No longer are these items you're earning in game valueless, you know.
Absolutely. It goes back to kind of what we were talking about. It's like not everybody knows how credit card transactions work.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little bit of my background, Daniel. So my background, I started a company that was focused on credit card transactions and securing those credit card transactions. So I had a complete understanding of how credit card transactions work, and it is extremely complicated for no reason, right? It literally, there's no reason it needs to be that complicated. But when I was pitching this idea to investors and clients and so forth, they didn't even know how credit card transactions work. And forgetting the investors, but the clients themselves who were supposed to know, they didn't even know. And so it's to get, you know, virtual reality or blockchain to a point where it can be pitched without explaining what a blockchain is. We're very far away from that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the revelation that I had in the last couple of days.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first people who will jump in will be hardcore players from games like you know, World of Warcraft tomorrow says that it's going to open an action house in crypto. A lot of people will start to learn more about it and be more pronounced to be open to crypto and blockchain.
Yeah.
And just like in World of Warcraft, back in the day, the hardcore players were the ones who were investing more time into it and learning all these techniques to get gold, you know. So I think you will need people who want to spend and invest time into learning it, or some kind of, you know, you have to have a purpose. I didn't care about cryptocurrencies until I have to get paid.
Yeah, that's true.
Clients. So because I didn't saw any reason to use it before that. So I guess a lot of people will have that same issue. Like I don't have to use it. Well, why should I learn about this?
No, absolutely.
I care about this. But let's say tomorrow Blizzard games in and say, okay, from tomorrow on, cryptocurrencies are in the game. So there's a huge amount of community that will have to learn about this shit if they want to keep playing, or if they want to keep being competitive. And those who will be like the first learners, and then they will spread out into more games and more communities.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I think when you're running a company, you're not necessarily going out and just trying to learn about all the new developments out in the world. Not until your clients are asking you to say, "Hey, can you do this NFT, you know, avatar for me?" It's like, well, what is an NFT? Then you got to do a bunch of research, and it's like, oh, you know, this is actually very valuable. I got to learn this because there's a market emerging here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what I see with Decentraland is that, so we're extremely early on in Decentraland, and I think with what Decentraland could bring kind of to the gaming community is going to be, I think, more powerful than what previous games had, at least from its standpoint of what players can do within a game. Because typically when you jump into a game, you can't really earn any money, like real money. You can earn virtual money that's just, you know, within the game. But in this case, in Decentraland, you can earn like actual currency, right? Real money. And so I think that new functionality is going to bring a different perspective on gaming. And I think that functionality is going to start applying into a lot of games and eventually maybe all the games. But that's how I see things. So has cryptocurrency like changed your perspective in how you're going to kind of you know, traverse this world of like gaming and development and all that, like, does it really affect your bottom line, or is this just another tool in your tool set?
It's just another tool. You have to see it as another tool and another thing that can grip or cannot grip onto technology. The thing is, I've been always involved into high risky technologies and high risky industries. So it's just another thing that can work or can work in a different way that you were expecting it to
Sure.
work. So I think we will see how it ends. For now, for me, it's a tool that I can use uh, to, for now, get paid, for example, or pay to some freelancers. For example, now I'm trying to convince out of crypto clients to get into crypto because I basically told them that they will save money, and they were like, "Oh, how can I save money? I like that,
Yeah.
The thing is, if you tell people that using crypto transactions you can save money, they all pay attention. Like,
Yeah.
oh, really? How can I avoid paying the bank for his stupid fees? And
Yeah, because I would imagine your clients are not all in Spain, right?
no, we don't have any clients in Spain.
Yeah. So doing a bank-to-bank transfer outside the country is such a pain in the ass. It's unbelievable. It's like the credit card industry and doing a credit card transaction. Hey, once you swipe or dip that card, it touches so many companies that it's ridiculous. And it's the same with bank-to-bank transfers, right? When you send money from the United States to Spain, it goes into a middle bank, a middleman bank, from bank to a middle bank to the actual bank. It's nonsense. So now you're right. If you're telling your clients, hey, if you just use Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, it's person to person transaction. I mean, that changes everything for them because they're saving like 20% of the transaction right there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saving money. They are saving money because when they make the transaction, they will get fees, and also I will get fees for doing this.
And then you get instant money, right? Within 30 minutes, you got the money that your
Yeah,
client paid.
Yeah, I guess you can get instant money. It's not that easy depending on the currency you're getting paid off. I
Right.
remember this day that I had to wait like 8 hours until
Oh,
my
really?
transaction was complete. Yeah, I mean it was
For Bitcoin?
no, it was day. I was paid in day, and I transferred into USDC.
Which cryptocurrency was it?
Day. It's not a cryptocurrency. It's a safe coin
DAI.
based on the law.
You talking about the stable coin DAI?
Yeah,
Oh,
DAI.
okay,
Sorry.
DAI. Okay.
Sorry.
Interesting.
We talk about DAI a lot on this podcast, actually.
So explain that a little bit. So you were paid in DAI, and it took 8 hours for you to receive DAI?
No, it took me 8 hours to transform DAI into
Ethereum.
USDC.
Okay, I got you. No, absolutely.
It's just about the amount of transaction that are being done with that two coins. So, okay,
True.
maybe you have to wait, but you are saving money anyway. So.
Yeah, and
the beauty of them using DAI is you're not open to that volatility within that 8 hour window, right? It's a stable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The cool thing is that you can get paid into safe coins,
Yeah.
and then you can wait until like, okay, I'm going to transfer my money right now, and then you buy
Exactly.
Ethereum and then sell Ethereum instantly.
Yeah.
Right? You maybe you lose money, maybe you earn a bit money, but you're not going to be crushed as if you had that money all the day into your bank account.
I totally agree. If you run a business, you don't want that volatility, even if it's going to potentially make you money. You rather stick with the stable coin.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can have a percentage on Ethereum or Bitcoin or these volatility coins.
Yeah.
That's totally up to you. I actually would recommend to just have a small percentage of your money get into these coins. But if you want to pay your employees,
Oh, yeah.
you have to pay in euros here. So I cannot tell them like, oh, I will send you 1,000 mana tomorrow. I wish I could, so they will take care of the transactions, but.
So that's a good question. Would you, if you could, I guess you would use cryptocurrencies to pay your employees, as long as they believe in this whole architecture, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. They have to believe in it.
Exactly.
I can tell you, not all my designers believe in crypto, for example. So they it's not that they are skeptical; it's that they still don't trust the technology yet because they see it as something for speculation or and brokers.
Yeah,
that's the thing that we have to change, right? Is people is seen only for brokers or hackers or that can be used for anyone and for anything.
No, that's interesting. I think, I mean, receiving DAI and then having to convert DAI into USD or Euro, it is a long process. I mean, but nonetheless, if your client pays you in DAI, you got paid, right? Mm-hmm. It's just,
of course,
it takes you a while to convert that into.
It's still better than what you said earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
A fiat transaction.
Yeah, because that takes several days.
Yeah,
and even then, they might even screw it up, which I've experienced before. You send $10,000 and your client ends up receiving $9,500. It's like, where the hell did the rest of the money go? And then the banks are like taking all these fees for no reason. They're converting into another currency just because that's what the bank does, and it's just a pain in the ass, and it delays things for several weeks.
Oh yeah,
and it's no way to like run a worldwide business like the one you're running, Daniel. So I think there's obviously a lot of potential in kind of what we're doing. It's to me, it's like really exciting. It has like our attention almost on a daily basis, kind of like what's going on with the crypto world.
Yeah.
And with DAI, I think DAI really has our attention because there's this company called compound.finance, and you can earn, close to like 15% interest on your DAI. Are you aware of that, Daniel?
No, I was not.
Well, I'll send you a link that way, just so you can look at it. It doesn't help us anything, but it at least exposes you to what they're doing. But the point here is, if you stake your DAI in Compound Finance, that DAI gets converted into a different cryptocurrency, and that cryptocurrency it accrues interest over time, and so it's the same premise of just what cryptocurrency is supposed to be. If we're our own bank. A bank uses our money and they loan that out and make interest, and they pay you, let's say, 0.1%. Mm-hmm. But if we're our own bank, then we have that same ability to do with our money. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Compound Finance is doing, is that if you stake your DAI, they pay you the 15%, and then they loan it out for, let's say, 17%. Mm-hmm. So they make the difference in that kind of transaction, but we're making 15% of our money versus the 0.1%, that we're getting from our bank if we're lucky. Yeah. And so that's why it has me so fascinated, because with that functionality, it renders banks like absolutely useless. There is no reason to be using traditional banking infrastructure anymore because of that. And on top of that, it is completely decentralized. The only fear here is that the smart contracts they're using to perform this functionality, they're built by humans. Right? Mm-hmm. Humans are flawed. They make mistakes, right? They can be compromised. But there's another company who you can pay, let's say, 1% of your earnings, and they'll insure you the money that you're staking. So if the smart contract gets compromised, then you don't lose any money because you're paying for the service of insurance. Mm-hmm. So there's that other aspect. But that's what fascinates me the most about programmable money, is that we have all these abilities and we're early on. Like, it's to me is amazing.
But that's the fear, I guess, because we're so early. It's hard to build trust.
Yeah, for sure.
In this ecosystem.
Yeah, it's like that video that we saw where the guy was like, "Well, what's the internet, or what's an email, and why do we have to? Well, what's the @ sign? Like, what does that mean?"
You mean like in the 90s when people were just now figuring out what the internet was?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, why should I send you an email when I can just call you, and which is foreign to us these days, right?
Yeah.
And pretty soon using a banking infrastructure is going to be like, using a horse and buggy to travel around.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I think banks have a lot of power, and they can try to shift and become something different.
True, that's true. They could be.
I don't think they're going to disappear. I think they will.
True. That's a good point.
That's a good point. They all become their own crypto, and they imagine a future where every bank creates their own coin, and what's the difference between that?
That's true. That's true because, when you think about us becoming our own bank, that means that we have to protect our own private keys.
Yeah.
And you can't really trust, 7 billion people to do a good job protecting their own private keys. So that probably isn't the best infrastructure to create a society on, where everyone is fighting for their own, security. So I think you're right. I think potentially banks could convert their kind of systems and be the custodial services with the same kind of like trust that we have in banks today. But in this case, it's crypto, and at this point, people won't have to know what a blockchain is. And
yeah, that's the thing. They will evolve. They will use the blockchain, and people will not even know that they're using the blockchain.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, for example, a lot of people I know, they keep their ledger into a bank safe.
Yeah, that's true.
You're trusted banks to save our stuff. Like the most important stuff should be in your bank in a safe, right?
Yeah.
So maybe probably we're going that way, where banks stop being the guys who lend money and are the guys who protect your money to not be stolen, or I don't know, giving you different services with your crypto, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Different.
That's true. That's true. I think you're absolutely right. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to have people trust themselves to protect their own money. So I think there's always going to be a use for a bank, but I think the value that cryptocurrencies bring is that the monetary policy is no longer governed by banks, and it creates a level playing field for everybody.
By banks and the states.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the kind of thing that I see. Maybe we see in the future that every country make their own cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I think we have economic battle or something between crypto and value.
Yep.
Another picture that I see is that maybe banks merge with the state in a way to save like the last remain of power they could have.
Yeah.
And because there are a lot of states that still have their own banking system being public instead of being private, and maybe that's a way for this to go on. I'm not sure. What I'm sure is that the same way we don't protect ourselves and we have police and we trust the police to protect ourselves.
True.
We will do the same with banks or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time, right? Like how the individual is going to be kind of in control of this money, and how banks are not necessarily going to be, having that power that they used to have, and how humans kind of control or the individuals now programming how money's going to work, and that the slow erosion of banks and how they operate today is going to change in a way where it's more aligned to what the population actually needs, instead of being manipulated by the banks. So, I mean, I think this we're headed in the positive direction, and I'm just personally, I'm glad that I can see this happening. Kind of like I didn't get to see the internet develop because we were too young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's exciting times. For me, for example,